Okay, this is the city council meeting of, the regular meeting of, April 21st, 2022. 19th, I got the old agenda yet, it's only the 19th.
Only.
Can't even call the meeting order.
I don't know, my
mistake.
Yeah.
You need a different mayor. No. All right, we'll start over. This is the regular meeting of the city council of the city of Holiday Island, 4/19/22 at 6 p.m. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Wes.
Okay, Councilmember Dumas.
Here.
Councilmember Elwood.
Here.
Councilmember Graves.
Here.
Councilmember Mills.
Here.
Councilmember Finley.
Here.
All present, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'll call a quorum. We have minutes to approve from March 15th, March 22nd, March 30th, and April 1st.
We approve the minutes for those times. I think we reviewed them and.
Ken made a motion to approve the minutes from those 4 meetings. Do I have a second?
Second.
Lynn seconded it. Any discussion?
I did have one more change that I can pass to Wes when he,
That you hadn't sent me up.
well,
'Cause I
I sent
made
it to
those.
you, but you left out one of the ones on the 4/1 meeting that I had sent you.
Okay, I thought I did all the ones that you highlighted.
You missed the second one.
For the record, you want to say what that is so that
Yeah,
we can approve the minutes?
it was the sentence on page 2 about the sentence that said, it was noted that in the 5th whereas there is the word hereinafter set forth herein that seems redundant. And I had revised that to read, it was noted that in the 5th whereas there is the wording hereinafter set forth, followed by herein that seems redundant. It was agreed to rewrite this phrase.
Okay,
Okay,
with that
It's kind of a
correction,
nit, but
I was thinking that I had corrected that one and maybe I got the wrong copy.
could be, it was in the version that you sent out, but I saw it wasn't, give that to
I know you come back the second time.
okay, any other discussion?
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
me. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agendas as amended or approved for the minutes.
You gonna approve the agenda?
We did approve the agenda.
Oh,
we did.
You guys did the minutes. Make a motion, Ken, and we'll.
Yep, make a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll
Ken made a
second it.
motion, Pat seconded it. Any discussion on the agenda? I have one item, the 2022-007 nuisance abatement ordinance. I have not received that back from the lawyer yet, so we will skip over that tonight.
Yeah, I think your dialogue that came with that said you didn't know whether we would have it or not.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't mention.
So, with that deletion from the agenda, any other discussion on the agenda? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Thank you for letting me know that I skipped over it. Ceremonials, recognitions, proclamations, and memorial. Any announcements? All right, moving on. Reports from standing committees. Jerry, is there anything going on with the broadband?
No, I responded to your email this afternoon about the grant seminar. I wish I had known about that because I could have gone, but I have a doctor's appointment Friday right after lunch, so I'm already canceled it once. I'm not going to go. I would love to go to that.
Yeah.
I think we.
Did you see my email on that too?
No.
I said basically the same thing, I wish at least one of us could go. And
Yeah.
I suggested that you call them and see if we couldn't get copies of whatever they're handing out, so that we could possibly submit something,
Or if the workshop's
Try,
recorded, maybe.
or if
we
it's
could-
recorded,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I wish they'd give you more than 2 days' notice of a workshop in
Yeah.
Harrison.
And Friday's our High Hall Road cleanup, yeah.
Yeah,
And I'll do it
if I
if
can,
I'm
if I can get somebody to substitute for me Friday for road cleanup, that'd be a lot easier.
You know, a high school kid, I'll pay him to take your place.
I might pay him to take my place, the way my knees feel today.
But that sounds like a perfect kind of grant for our community, and I
Yeah.
think we ought to try to
Yeah,
get
but is that
something
good
if we
idea?
possibly could.
Would that be similar to what we got with the trails, or is it?
I think it's the same basic program, but it's.
They gave us what, 25,000?
Yeah.
We only had to match 5?
Mhm. And in the final analysis, we didn't need any cash because they gave us credit for all of our labor and equipment that we used.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't worked for $10 an hour for a long time.
mhm.
There was,
That's all I'm worth, but
I'm glad you said that.
it's true.
there was a long article in the Gazette today about this report from the statewide study that group is doing. I don't know, have you seen?
And I've been reading Sundays today, but.
They had a map in there of areas covered and areas not covered and so on, but you really couldn't tell from that where Holiday Island.
I would like to ask a question on that, and that is, the guy that's running for county judge,
That's him.
that's the same guy that's doing the broadband?
Mhm.
Well, I mean, if we could get somebody else to go, we don't necessarily have to have a council member go. Could anybody go and at least pick up the materials for us if we can talk to them?
Yes,
Is it going?
but I would need to know tomorrow because you got an RSVP
Oh, okay.
tomorrow. So,
I'll let you know if because my daughter doesn't live too far away, maybe I could talk to her, so, would you go? I will go.
Hal just raised his hand.
It's 11 o'clock Friday morning in Harrison.
if somebody wants to go or can go, let me know and I'll RSVP and get you the information. Okay. Financial reports, Wes distributed them
I had a question on one page.
on financial.
Okay,
If this one's on the payments, general fund payments journal, there's a $25 membership for Carroll Electric Cooperative Corporation.
Yeah.
What's that?
a membership, you have to be a member of Carroll Electric to get electricity.
Oh, and the electricity was for the sheriff's substation.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yep, I drove all the way over there with a $25 check, because that's all they said on the website that you needed. And when I got there, she said, oh, you're gonna need checks for more than that.
It's been 19 years since I signed up.
Well, I think, how many trips did you made 2 trips, I made one.
It was, that whole thing was a Chinese fire drill, but we got it done. Okay,
Okay, any other questions on the financials?
motion to approve the financials,
Except,
accept the
Make a
financials.
motion, we accept the financial statements.
I'll second.
Ken made a motion, Linda seconded it, any other discussion?
Are we now receiving county road fund back?
yes, we received checks yesterday, and I think, the street was like 8,200, and there was 430 for a general. So we questioned that before, so I did some checking. I called Makita, and she didn't know. She said, well, it's on, it says something to do with the collections of the delinquent taxes. And she said, well, call Berryville or Green Forest, because they're similar to you. They have no local tax, so I called Berryville, and the lady said, yeah, you always get, there's both general and street. And the general goes in the general fund, so
Maybe the penalties on
that's what I'm wondering,
delinquent taxes go into the general fund.
yeah,
Probably must be, maybe it's a penalty on the delinquent.
yeah,
stuff.
that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, so that would make sense if it was a penalty on the delinquents.
Any other discussions on the financials? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we accept the financials, you can post them. Moving on to business, we have no old business. Under new business, we have ordinance number 2022-004, an ordinance providing for the regulation of solid waste and recycling collection and disposal within the corporate limits of the city of Holiday Island. Do I have a motion to approve the ordinance?
So moved.
Jerry made a motion to approve the ordinance. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I'm gonna open the meeting to the council members for discussion. Well, do we want to read the entire ordinance
No.
or just read it by title?
Maybe we could read it by title only.
Do we need to make a motion for
Yeah,
that?
Jerry moved to read it by title only,
I'll second that.
and Linda seconded it. Let's vote on that motion.
I get confused, I'm looking at it, and we've got an emergency clause, do we not have to do something?
We have to make a motion at the end to approve the emergency clause. But right now, we should vote on the motion to read by title only, so Wes, you wanna call the roll?
Okay, Councilmember Dumas,
Aye.
Councilmember Elwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Graves,
Aye.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Pittman.
Aye.
All in favor, Mr. Mayor?
Okay. And I'll go ahead and read the ordinance title. City of Holiday Island, Carroll County, Arkansas. An ordinance number 2022-004, an ordinance providing for the regulation of solid waste and recycling collection and disposal within the corporate limits of the city of Holiday Island, declaring an emergency and prescribing other matters related thereto. So we have a motion to approve the ordinance, so I'll open for discussion.
Now, are we waiving, if we have an emergency, are we waiving any readings?
I didn't think, I thought we were gonna do.
If it's an emergency,
We just, yes,
we don't need to.
we don't do the 3 readings, we just,
Okay,
but if we approve this ordinance, then we have to make another motion to approve the emergency clause.
I make a motion, we approve ordinance number 20.
The motion's already been
We've
made.
already
We're
had it.
in the discussion phase.
Okay.
I have 3 changes, 3 small changes, suggestions.
Good.
Nah.
because,
They're minor.
Full barn.
Okay, first one is on page 2, second paragraph. Well, actually, it's not in the second paragraph, it's actually down under the contractor definition. The contractor definition says, means any sanitation company approved by the city for residential solid waste and or recycling services. However, in the body of the ordinance, we also refer to contractor as being responsible for commercial waste as well. And up there in paragraph 2 on this page, it does say, how the city council will do a contract with a single residential and or commercial contractor. So I was thinking we should add and or commercial contractor after the residential
The version that was distributed doesn't have the word residential in it anywhere.
The one I have did.
I don't see it, that's why I'm trying
The
to.
one I have does.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, first line, and this is first
Oh, I
line.
read it 3 times, I read it 3 times, sorry.
It's okay.
Good point, Linda, we'll add that.
Okay, and my next one is on page 5. On page 5, under penalties and fines, section 9. The first sentence, I'll read it. Any individual found to be disposing of solid waste in a manner not permitted by this code or specifically authorized by state law shall be guilty of a misdemeanor violation, and then it says no greater than the sum of $500. The violation is not
Yeah.
pertinent to the money.
You need
so
to with something.
add after guilty of a misdemeanor violation and subject to a fine.
Okay, now let's go back here on page 5.
That was page 5. Yeah. In
Section
section 9,
Section 9, violation count.
the third line after misdemeanor
I tell you
violation.
what, we're gonna have to get a new lawyer,
They did what,
I don't know how I can read that and not see that.
Cause you put in there what you think it
I
ought.
do, I read too fast. But I read
I
right
have
through
it
that, it
in
seemed fine to me.
mine.
I got it too.
Okay.
I can fix it.
And then the last one is on page 7, I think. Yeah, 7, right. Yeah, okay, this is under section 16, severance clause, the third line, where it says, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distance and independent provision. It's distinct, a separate, distinct
Oh, yeah.
and independent provision.
Where are you?
The third line
Section
of section
16.
16.
Where it says distance, it should read distinct.
I have a question.
Hang on, Ken.
That's all I have.
Go to another line.
Do we need that section 18 effect, this ordinance shall take effect on August 1st? Because it's passed and approved on the date.
You're right, that didn't catch that either. It'll be this date. April 19, 2022.
What?
What? Wait a minute.
No.
The ordinance shall
No.
take effect. The penalties and what have you take effect after the deadline is set someplace else, don't they?
The ordinance goes into effect.
When you sign
The transition timeline is
Okay.
part of the ordinance.
But you can't have an ordinance that says, you know, you're guilty of something that causes a fine on the next day when they haven't even signed up yet.
I thought we talked
Like
about
we
the
did,
August.
we talked about it going into effect August 1st to give time to transition to it. At the last time we discussed it.
And under what authority would we be transitioning to it if the ordinance wasn't in effect yet? It's a chicken and egg scenario.
True.
I
There's
think,
a way to write
I
that.
think
But
the,
there would be I think there is a way that you say, and it does say, it says compliance with this ordinance is required after August 1st, which seems a good way
I
to
think
say it.
I don't see why that's a problem. If we have the ordinance goes into effect today, but compliance isn't required till August 1st, is that an issue? I thought that's the way we talked about it. and came
I
up
mean, you
with.
could add a sentence in front of that, the ordinance goes into effect immediately upon the date of signing, and compliance is required after August 1st.
I think that's what it does say.
Nothing.
Well, they're questioning what it says, they're saying that shouldn't be there, I think it should.
I think that's the way we decided to write it. You can't pass it tonight and expect compliance tomorrow.
Well, then the date's wrong because it's not going to be effective August 1st. But I don't see.
You have to have made arrangements you have to sign up, which the letter that Dan's gonna send out.
And you gotta get this contract with.
I have a contract.
Well, you can make that date any day you want to, but that's not the,
I'm not arguing that, I'm trying to,
The date we talked about over there today is 1st of September.
1st of September is the latest, proposed effective date that would be in the contract with Carroll County Solid Waste.
I mean, on the last page, the signature page says passed and approved this something day of, on the 19th of April, it'll say the 19th of April. I don't know why you can't say compliance is required after August 1st.
Where do you see compliance?
It's on
Section
paragraph, section 18.
section 18, put my glasses back
It
on.
says the ordinance will take
Page
effect.
7.
Yeah, the
No,
ordinance,
it
it
says
says the
compliance.
ordinance will take effect.
Mhm.
No,
Where the hell you guys?
the version that was distributed says compliance with this ordinance is required after August 1, 22.
That's what I'm reading. You got a different
Yeah,
version?
maybe
Yeah,
it's
different
not
version
the
than
right
I got.
version.
We're gonna have to start putting dates on these.
Section 18, it's only
Maybe you're
one
looking
sentence.
at the one we reviewed last meeting.
It's only one sentence.
Trying to think what I printed this out from.
well,
This one, the one that I'm reading from, is the one that Dan sent out on, what was it, 14th?
Hey,
That's what I'm thinking, this
When
one
he,
came
when he
up.
sent the agenda and
Yeah.
ordinances that were
Right.
gonna be discussed.
That's the
That's
version.
where I got this one.
Right. So, what do you want that section to read?
I want it to read just like it says now.
Well, unless we want to change the date.
Compliance with this order is required after 9.
And we said August because we had July in there
Right,
before.
you're right.
I
We
said,
decided
we need
August,
another month.
we needed, agreed
Because
on,
we've been
August last
discussing it for
time.
a month.
And now Carroll County Solid Waste is saying 9/1.
Okay, make it
Then
nine.
change it to 9/1.
Leave it the way it is, but
Make it
change the
nine.
date to 9.
Okay, sounds good.
the one you put out, it says that had a compliance, and the one that came out the 14th, I had an earlier one.
what's the section where I can look at the one online?
Section 18. It's
Because
the
that's what was
last
in,
one, last section, one line.
It's only one sentence long.
yeah, it says compliance with this ordinance is required after August 1st.
Well, okay, I'm the
We're
only
changing that
one
to
with the-
September.
No, I had the other one too.
But this is the one that was posted, so that's the
Yeah.
one.
I do remember us changing that though in the
Don't
workshop.
see why you did it.
So, for some reason, I pulled up the old copy of this.
Anyway,
Do we need a motion to amend it? No, we don't.
I make the motion with the amendment.
No,
Because we would vote on the ordinance as amended. When we get to the voting part.
okay.
All right, is there any other discussion? All right, since this is a important subject to a lot of people in Holiday Island, I'm gonna open the floor up for discussion we're gonna limit it to 3 minutes because we've already had several meetings and a full workshop on this subject, so we've pretty much discussed it, thoroughly already, but I will open the floor. If you would,
Let me just, I will give you about a 30-second notice when your 3 minutes is about up. And I won't start early, so go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Robert Kennedy. I'm running as People's Sheriff of Carroll County. I see so many problems with that. Like, ordinances, yes, they're set in place for certain reasons, but if the sheriff's office is being too lazy to go over there to dig through the trash that people are leaving on the property, to pull out an aerosol can and realize the EPA can charge them and give the money to the city because it's leaking into our lakes. If money's the problem, we can get you the money, that's not the issue, but I have a lot of friends here that take their trash, take their cardboard, because they can't afford prices like that. I see that as a conflict of interest in being on the board and owning part of Carroll County Solid Waste. I won't stand here and listen to that for my citizens if I'm elected, and I just don't think it's right. I can help the city, no problem. It's just lazy sheriff's office. I can handle it without y'all having to do this. This is Robert Kennedy. Vote for me for Kennedy, pick the sheriff. Thank you very much.
Since you brought up an issue of conflict of interest, I feel obligated to make a point. Every mayor in the cities represented by the Carroll County Solid Waste District, every mayor is on the board of directors. The Carroll County Solid Waste Authority was established by the mayors of the city and the county, and I am not participating in the negotiation for the rates that are being established. That is being negotiated by a council member, and when the Carroll County Solid Waste Authority votes on whether or not they will accept the contract from Holiday Island, I will recuse myself and not vote on the contract. So there is no conflict of interest.
Can I make a comment, Ray?
I have no problem with Carroll County Solid Waste. I have 3 of their trash cans. I'm not here for me. It's just some people can only afford so much. Now, if we
You
could
haven't
maybe
seen the
work-
rate structure yet. You have no idea whether or
I
not
know.
they'll be
And
able
you've been
to
making
afford
comments
what we come up
on
with.
social media that if you're elected, you will not enforce the ordinances that we passed.
I won't enforce tyrannical ordinances.
What do you mean? Come on, man.
He's had his 3 minutes.
You're out of left field.
Can I give you my 3 minutes?
Yes,
I'll give you my 3 minutes.
go ahead.
I had some good stuff to say, but, well.
But
we are gonna talk about solid waste ordinance. We're not gonna talk about campaigning for sheriff or anything else.
I'll sit down. Y'all
I got something to say.
Alright, if you're wanting to put Holiday Island under contract and make it to where a small business like myself can't come in and work for somebody that is on social security or disability that can't afford to have a big dumpster put out in their yard and then afford to pay somebody like, because I can't use my truck, they would have to pay somebody to clean out their house, to clean their property, or these toxic dumps that you say you got around here, 12 of them. I've cleaned up the 13th one, so I've done hard work in this area. I think if you do this contract, you're gonna be shooting yourself in the foot, so to say, because there's gonna be messes that people cannot afford to clean up, because they can't afford to pay Carroll County Solid Waste. And then you're gonna find those people that already don't have money. I mean, you're not doing this for your citizens. This is I feel like this is more of a monopoly type thing. It's more financial for personal gain than for the well-being of Holiday Island and the citizens. I mean, could you explain to me how this helps Holiday Island? I just wanna.
That's all been discussed in the workshop. We spent 3 hours in the workshop discussing that whole subject.
When we start those workshops later today when people aren't working.
What time did we do the workshop? There were a lot of people here.
Yeah. That was,
Well, this gentleman was here. and
We need to
sang
get the
some
la-
incidents.
The workshop was at
Name
6
on
o'clock,
there.
it was in the evening.
We had several.
So that we can record it in the minutes, can you state your name?
Oh, my name's Nathaniel Mann. I own Osage Trash Service.
You were there.
Yes, I was there.
Okay, so what are you crying about?
What am I? Why do you have to be so disrespectful?
Yeah, let's
That's
keep
pretty
it
disrespectful.
civil. Well, the reasons for doing this were well discussed, thoroughly discussed in the workshop.
Everybody busy. I agree with him, this is tyrannical, this is, you guys, and then to be disrespected like that, I mean, I feel like I'm presenting a valid point. I must have said something that offended you, right?
No.
Is this monopoly or something?
No,
Do
you
you get financial gain out of this?
Sure.
What is your point in insulting me like
There's
that?
the 3 minutes
Yeah.
up.
I'm a small business.
20 seconds.
So we get control of the meeting. No one is doing this for financial gain. If you have any reason to believe that or have evidence of that, you can bring it forth. We're doing this for all the reasons we stated, so that we have control over the environmental regulations which the city is responsible for. We own the garbage, cradle to grave. If people are illegally dumping and they walk away from it, we're financially responsible and could be fined. We're doing what every other city does. We're getting control of solid waste disposal in the city. There's no benefit whatsoever financially to the city or any representative here for doing this. Right, any other discussion?
I'm Sharon Lawler, Holiday Island resident on Table Rock Drive, and I didn't understand exactly what some of the problems might be until just this past week. We have quite a bit of yard waste that we need to get rid of, and Carroll County Solid Waste will not take it.
We have quite a bit of what?
Yard waste.
Yard waste.
Yard waste.
Carroll County Solid Waste will not take it. I called the recycling place, they won't take it. In fact, both Carroll County Solid Waste and the city of Eureka Springs told me that if I can find somebody that'll take my yard waste, to please let them know, because they don't do it. And so, are you telling me that if we do this contract, that I can't call him to come and pick up my yard waste?
Not at all.
Okay.
This does not deal with yard waste.
I think it'd be
It
great for
excludes-
him to go into the yard waste business. I
Okay,
think it's a
good.
gold
All
mine.
right, that's all I had, that's the only question I had,
Yeah.
because I wasn't available for that.
Carroll County solid waste doesn't take it because by state law, you can't landfill, yard waste.
Right, and I understand
So
that, but
that's,
they didn't have
that's
any other
why
options.
they don't deal with it. But this ordinance specifically excludes yard
Right.
waste.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And we're gonna need somebody that's
You betcha.
available to haul off yard waste. I hope you will take that into consideration.
I think we discussed that, about that wouldn't preclude him from doing cleaning
No, not at all.
vacant houses or whatever, so.
I'll sell it, $22 can lane.
Yeah.
If, the gentleman from Osage, I don't know if you just heard the comment we made at the board, but they specifically, in a discussion earlier, the comment was made that possibly that was something that you could handle. I think the statements were made by, Kennedy, about financial gain, and also by yourself, sir, about financial gain. These people all serve as volunteers. They come in here on their own time and do a lot of work besides this. They met with Carroll County Waste as volunteers. They're not making anything financial gain. If anything, it's probably a financial loss for all of them. As far as the rates for senior citizens, Berryville, Green Forest, I believe they have senior citizens who live there on Social Security, and those cities have the same kind of a contract for solid waste. There are people, there are not people that, they're not talking about a contract for yard waste. They're talking about solid waste that needs to be tracked. The gentleman who's the head of the board for the solid waste district spoke recently at Rotary, and he's also the mayor of Berryville. And he mentioned their rate, which right away one of the members of the Rotary said, well, how come your rate is only $16 in Berryville and I'm paying $20? Because the whole city of Berryville has a negotiated rate. So the people that are on social security, they're actually paying less money because they're paying a negotiated rate. These people have put a lot of time and effort into this. It's not something they just plucked out of the air. And I commend you for the time and effort you've done. I know it's been hard. I know you've taken a lot of ridicule, apparently because possibly the separation between yard waste and solid waste would have been occurred earlier. But there's a lot of things, and I know there's a problem in Holiday Island right now. You know, why hasn't this guy been made to clean up his yard? It's in the courts. It's coming. He will clean up his yard. And thank you.
Just for the record, I didn't mean to offend anybody.
No,
No,
not at all.
And we don't wanna put anybody out of business by doing this. It's something the city, we feel the city needs to do. Hopefully, there's plenty of other opportunities for you to still, provide a service to the people in Holiday Island. Because as we've all said, yard waste is, a huge problem here. Nobody knows what to do with it. And we certainly can't keep just throwing it out in the woods and creating more fuel for some drought year when we may burn down the city. So,
There's a lot of words.
for the record, the first gentleman that made a comment during this comment period was Robert Kennedy. All right, is there any other discussion? If not, we'll move to a roll call vote on the ordinance.
Councilmember Dumas,
Aye.
Councilmember Elwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Graves,
Aye.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Pittman.
Aye.
All in favor, Mr. Mayor?
All right, the ordinance passes then, and since there is an emergency clause, I'll need a motion to accept the emergency clause.
I'll move we accept the emergency clause on this ordinance.
Linda moved to accept the emergency clause, and Jerry seconded it. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dumas,
Aye.
Councilmember Elwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Graves,
Aye.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Pittman.
Aye.
All in favor, Mr. Mayor?
All right, so the ordinance passes, and the ordinance, the emergency clause passes. All right, next thing on the agenda is an update on contract status with Carroll County Solid Waste. Ken, you wanna give a little update?
Yes,
Oh, by the way, for the record, I asked Ken to be the one to work out the contract details with Carroll County Solid Waste in order to avoid any conflict of interest.
and I don't know whether I sent this to everybody or not, but, I did request from Carroll County Solid Waste a list of the prices that they had for all the other cities in Carroll County. And I made a spreadsheet with it. And the price that they're offering us is very comparable, except in a couple of places. And since these contracts were negotiated, the other cities were negotiated at different times, some of them are not exactly the same, so there is. And when I was over there today, the one that seems to be a little more out of line than any of them is Alpena. And George said the previous director negotiated that one, and it's really not. But, these are all negotiated contracts with the individual cities, so there's some variance in when they happen. But I think the idea of what they're offering us is really in line, like the two 30-gallon bags, which is basically what Ace is offering for $16.63, and you're paying. I ask you what you're paying. It's $29 a month. So,
28 something.
and they have a low, when they started out, we talked about that today, instead of calling it, low income, we're just gonna call, they're gonna offer that to anybody with low volume. So for $10, you get a 15-gallon bag every week plus your recyclable box, so that.
1 15-gallon bag?
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that live, live by themselves, that are very prudent with their stuff,
How much would that be, did you say?
$10 a month, $9.71. And, we went over all the different, and if you look down the spreadsheet, the carts and the dumpsters, and everything, are early in line. The other thing that we talked about was what inactive is, and inactive is people that leave and go someplace they have to continue to pay $6, and,
Okay, go back to the inactive, they're like people that
Go
are
to-
here
go-
for a few months and gone a few months?
Yeah.
Okay, but the months they're gone, they would have to pay how much a
$6.
month? A month?
6, was that?
6. George justified it. The other reason that our prices are maybe a little bit more, all the other cities, the water department does the billing and collecting. And Carroll County Solid Waste is going to do our collecting and billing. So they do have an extra expense. I'm comfortable, I kind of thought maybe the inactive that, if you shut your water off and you go to Texas for 6 months, you ought to not pay anything, but I think it's reasonable.
So if you shut your water off, you're still gonna pay the $6.
Can I make a comment? If you shut your water off in Holiday Island, and you come back when you turn it on, you pay $75. Like, I don't shut off my water line outside, it's $15 a month.
Yeah,
If I shut it off over the winter, I gotta pay $75 in the spring to turn it back on. So,
Yeah,
it might be something to consider as a comparison.
Mr. Mills, was there a bag tag on your chart? A list of price?
The extra bag is, for your, if you sign up for the 2 30-gallon bags and you put out an extra one, they're gonna charge you $1.75 for the extra.
That's not the bag tag.
No.
No.
That's not the other,
What
there is no
the
bag
other?
tag, it's just the extra bag.
Well,
there
we
is a
need a
bag.
bag tag.
Yeah, there will be a bag tag. The city will sell the bag tags and, keep the money.
That's for the weekenders.
That'll hopefully cover the cost of the dumpster that we have to position out here. They recommend that we start out with just one dumpster, just to see how many people even sign up for that service. And then we'll take it from there.
But those are gonna be only for short termers, right?
Those are for the people that come down for the weekend and leave on Sunday afternoon, but don't come back until the following weekend or maybe a month later or something. So it's basically for the weekenders.
Ken, on the low volume, what does that entitle people to then?
It's, one bag, or 15-gallon bag a week plus the recycle.
Which basically is a large kitchen bag.
Yeah, and then can they get an extra bag too? For $1.75 or?
Yeah. They can, but what George said is that if every week there's an extra bag out there, then they're gonna talk to that person about upgrading their service to the next level.
I think they're gonna do their best to work with the residents.
It sounded to me like when you said that 2 30-gallon bags for $16. I think that's what we're on now
Yeah,
at our house, and that's about the same price.
this, I think this is probably a little less than.
With tax or something.
Ours is, well, it might have just, I don't know.
And most of the people I know have the 65-gallon carts. And they have an awful lot of them around where I am.
How much is that, sir?
23.26.
Now, keep in mind that the Carroll County Solid Waste Authority board has not approved this rate structure yet, but it probably will be approved.
When you're talking these rates of $9, $16, $23, are those monthly or weekly? Monthly.
And everything, all their service is weekly pickup, and including a recyclable.
So are we gonna get to see a copy of the contract and the rates before we vote on
They're,
that?
they're working on the final draft right now, and we have the Carroll County Solid Waste Board has a meeting next Friday, and they will review the contract. Ken and I have already seen it and we're comfortable with it, but if they approve it without changes, then I'll probably call a special meeting for the city council to review and approve the contract.
Dan, does the latest version have anything about this issue of the cardboard recycling?
No, that's not part of it, that's a separate issue.
That's actually a free service that they're providing right now, so it's not in the contracted rate. But we did talk about the fact that it's overflowing on a regular basis, so they may need to pick up more frequently or something.
Ken, just so I'm understanding, in case somebody asks me a question, no matter what you get, whether you get the 15-gallon or the 230-gallon or whatever, they'll just ignore it if, like, once a year you have company over and you're a 15, and then you've got 2 of them that week, but 90% of the time.
I think that was the general consensus.
They're not gonna put it in writing, but they're kind of just.
I can tell you
Unless
from
it's a habit.
experience, they do that.
Unless it's a habit, they're just gonna let it ride.
They can charge you this $1.75 for.
Okay.
But most of the time, these guys on the truck are not gonna wanna write that.
That's what I'm doing, because I'm just thinking about even personally, one can is all we ever use, except if the kids come over for Thanksgiving.
It costs them more than $1.75 to bill you for it.
I know that they take newspapers and magazines with the recycling stuff. Will they take your cardboard box, flattened cardboard boxes?
No. I don't know that they
Technically,
take
no.
magazines.
There was something.
It's been done.
It's been done.
It's been.
I don't know that they take magazines either, do they?
Yes.
We haul ours to the center.
Magazines go in my
They take-
recycle bin.
We put a magazine.
We put them in the recycle bin. I don't know what they do with them.
There was
And
something that.
overflow the recycling.
What they don't want for sure is like cereal boxes and stuff. It's corrugated cardboard is what they recycle. All that other stuff is just pasteboard, and it's all glue and it comes up in machinery.
Mr. Mills, on page 16 is the hours of collection. The original that we had to evaluate last time said 5 a.m. and we talked about changing it to 7. Is that where you're at today? 7 a.m.?
Is that in the contract or the?
I'm on the contract.
I think it was changed to 10, wasn't it? What page is that?
It's on page 16, it's called hours of collection. It's in section 4, residential services. Second page.
That'd be fine.
And we were gonna change it to 7?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, I don't think so.
Because it says 7 a.m. in the ordinance.
I thought we changed it the other way.
I may never find that. there's no page numbers. Let me see.
On, section 12, bulk collections, it says bulky waste not later than 7 AM, day of collection.
That's bulky waste.
Okay.
Normal hours is usually. Normal hours of collection,
I don't see normal hours in our ordinance.
That's gotta be part of the contract, not part of the ordinance.
Okay,
I thought you said we were in the contract, not the ordinance.
we are. You
Okay,
asked me
but
why I was reading that.
normal hours of collection are from 5 AM to 6 PM.
Yeah, and they'll never get Holiday Island done in one day if they can't start till 7 in the morning.
I use it as an alarm clock.
They already started at 7
They
a.m.
come to our house.
I hear them 2 doors down and say, dang, I didn't get the
And they
garbage.
tell them they have to have it out the night before, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, I was looking for that night before, I couldn't find it. Okay, no problem.
I think in the ordinance, it mentions, you put them out in the previous evening.
Yeah, it was something like,
Well,
no later, no earlier than 5 the day
5
before.
o'clock the day before.
Our ordinance simply says, all residential customers will be advised by the contractor of the collection dates and times.
yeah.
We're leaving it up to them.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, any other updates? I'll bring that contract before the, council here as soon as it gets approved on the other end. You'll have plenty of opportunity to review it and make sure that it's not in conflict with the ordinance.
I think
I do, for what it's worth, Carroll County Solid Waste has a copy of our ordinances prior to those corrections that Linda made tonight.
but I think the argument about, imposing an undue burden on people with this low volume, it's very reasonable.
Okay, I'm gonna move on then to the next item on the agenda is ordinance 2022-005, the second reading of the zoning ordinance. We had the first reading on it, a couple of months back already, and, it got no further action for a couple of reasons. One, we completely rewrote it to take it out of Title 14, I believe,
Title 14.
Title 14 format, and put it into ordinance format at the request of the attorney. And then there were some other changes that were made to it after the first reading. So rather than trying to do the second reading basically with a totally new document, which I didn't think was appropriate, I am going to bring this up tonight for a vote on the second reading with I can't tell you how to vote, but it's with the anticipation that it will not pass on the second reading, and then we will resubmit ordinance 2022-006, which is the rewrite of the ordinance that's being reviewed by the attorney.
It's the version that the planning commission approved and recommended to the city council in the last meeting.
Correct.
And we would do a first reading on that.
Yes.
We would do a first reading on
Start
that.
over.
Not to be a fly on one, but shouldn't it have said that in the agenda? I mean, we call for the second reading, and then we're gonna,
All he
I
wants
have
is
no
it to
problem
be
doing
voted
it,
out.
With what?
All I'm doing, I'm following the agenda, I'm calling for a second reading. But I'm anticipating that the second reading, that it's gonna fail on the second reading.
but you don't have it back on there for a first reading.
We're not ready
No,
to know.
Because we're not ready yet.
Okay.
The 2022-006 is still being reviewed by,
Okay.
actually, it's not even being reviewed by the attorney yet, because I didn't wanna send him that until he had the nuisance ordinance done, and then be backlogged by 2 tasks. So,
Okay, I understand that.
so we will catch that up as soon as we can, and I will start building a fire under our city attorney. So, now, for a second reading, I guess I need a motion to, to approve the second reading of this ordinance.
I'll move that we approve the second reading of ordinance 2022-005 zoning.
Okay, Linda made a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Jerry made a motion to seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Otherwise, I'll call for a vote. Roll call vote.
Do we need to read the title or anything?
I can read the title. It's, ordinance 2022-005, an ordinance adopting Title 14 zoning in order to clarify zoning regulations, establishing fees and penalties for violation thereof, and other purposes for the city of Holiday Island. I'll call for the vote.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Okay, Councilmember Dumas,
No.
Surprise.
Councilmember Elwood,
Nay.
And this is,
Councilmember
It
Gray,
just seems like a silly way to do this.
This is technically the correct way.
It is.
Councilmember Mills,
no,
Councilmember Pittman,
No.
say
I was going to.
Right,
Somebody needs to say yes.
the ordinance fails to pass on the second reading, therefore it is dead. And this in no reflection, this is in no way reflects the hard work that Lynn did on it. It's purely a technicality so that we get the correct format and everything at some future meeting.
so.
so we're gonna have 06.
It'll be coming up, yeah.
So just for the record, what was posted on the web for work documents is the version 05 that we just now disapproved. The 06 version is not yet out there.
Clarification. At some point down the line, then we present these ordinances to the municipal league and they codify them into the municipal code format. That's the long range?
Right, and then we will have to pass an ordinance accepting the codification of our ordinances. Right, the next,
Require us to read it all again.
maybe we'll do that one by title only.
Okay.
All right, next thing on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-008, City of Holiday Island, Carroll County, Arkansas. An ordinance accepting the dedication of certain portions of State Line Drive and Hawk Drive from the Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
How about 07?
We took it off the
I took that
agenda.
off the
Oh,
agenda.
that's right,
Because the,
gotcha.
all right, I'll entertain a motion that we pass this ordinance.
I'll move to approve it.
Linda made the motion to approve, do I have a second?
Second.
Ken seconded it. All right, I'll open the floor for, well, we should read it first. This is probably short enough. Wes, you wanna read it?
Yeah.
You wanna read it? We can read the whole thing.
Ordinance number 2022-008, City of Holiday Island, Carroll County, Arkansas. An ordinance accepting the dedication of certain portions of State Line Drive and Hawk Drive from the Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District, declaring an emergency and other purposes. Whereas Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District owns and maintains certain streets and roadways within the municipal limits of the city of Holiday Island, and I forgot my reading glasses, so, but I'm okay.
We all got it.
Whereas certain portions of State Line Drive and Hawk Drive as set forth in the attached Exhibit A are used by the public and are in need of repair, and whereas the city of Holiday Island can perform the repairs to State Line Drive and Hawk Drive and maintain the same, and whereas Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District, HICID, adopted Regulation 2022-002 in order to dedicate the portions of State Line Drive and Hawk Drive to the city of Holiday Island, and whereas the City Council of the City of Holiday Island believes it to be in the best interest of the citizens of Holiday Island to accept the dedication of streets and roadways as set forth in HICID Regulation number 2022-002. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Holiday Island, Arkansas, Section 1, the dedication of an approximately, and probably shouldn't be in there, of approximately 14,715 linear foot section of State Line Drive, extending from Holiday Island Drive to County Line Road CR 242, and approximately 8,375 foot section of Hawk Drive, extending from Wild Turkey Drive to Eagle Drive, as set forth and depicted in Regulation number 2022-002, which is attached herein as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference, including all easement and right-of-way dedication shown thereon is hereby accepted by the City of Holiday Island. Section 2, the provisions of this ordinance are hereby declared to be inseparable, and if any section, phrase, or provision shall for any reason be declared to be invalid, such declaration shall not affect the validity of the remainder of the sections, phrases, and provisions. Section 3, any matters set forth in this ordinance which are contrary to the existing ordinances of the City of Holiday Island shall prevail, and all other ordinances and resolutions or parts of ordinances and resolutions in conflict herewith and therewith are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict. Emergency clause. Since the repair of said streets is imminent, an emergency is determined to exist, and this ordinance will take effect upon passage. Passed and approved this 19th day of April 2022.
Okay, we'll open it up for discussion now, and I'll start. Originally, we had discussed accepting the dedication of these two roads after they were paved. However, in discussing this with our city attorney, we felt that it was that in order to avoid the potential issue with us spending public money on private roads, that we had to dedicate the roads first, accept the dedication of the roads first, and then spend the public money on improving those roads. So that's why I had them draft this ordinance accepting the roads at this time, because they could be pulling up here any time with the construction equipment. Any other discussion on the ordinance?
Where do we arrive at and what kind of agreement do we come to on what we're going to pay this city for?
We haven't discussed that yet.
Okay, so that's gonna be another local agreement then?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the permanent record, will a copy of the signed regulation from HICID be part of the record? Because the copy I have before me doesn't have any dates or signatures on
Yeah, you're right, and I believe that maybe we talked about that before. Yes, the signed copy should be a part of the record.
Have they already approved it?
Mhm. Any other discussion? All right, we're ready for the roll call vote.
Councilmember Dumas,
it. Aye.
Councilmember Elwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Graves,
Aye.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Britton.
Aye.
All in favor, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Question, Linda made the motion, who seconded that?
Ken did.
I thought I did.
Yeah, Ken did. Right, the ordinance 2022-008 has passed. It does contain an emergency clause, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the emergency clause.
Make a motion, we accept the urgency clause?
I'll second.
Ken made the motion, Pat seconded it. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dumas,
Aye.
Councilmember Elwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Graves,
Aye.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Britton.
Aye.
All in favor, Mr. Mayor.
All right, the emergency clause passes, so if they show up tomorrow with the paving equipment, we're ready.
We're gonna have an
We're in good
Indian
shape.
day.
I guess we can discuss just very briefly the maintenance part of it. I have had discussions with Danny Presley about how we would handle that. I don't think we want to overcomplicate it, but I do think that we want to, as a city, have some basic specifications, if for lack of any better term, for what we would agree is proper maintenance, if we're gonna contract for it. And probably the most concerning one is road cuts. That anytime they do a road cut, they're gonna have to put the road back to its original condition, not just throw, a half inch of cold patch over the gravel that they put back in the hole. So that there's gonna have to be some, documentation of what we want, what we would expect there, and ditch maintenance too, that.
And a good example of that is right out there on going up the hill.
Yeah.
They put a 4-foot patch in there and boy,
That makes it rough, and that it needs to be done correctly and everything else, but I'm just as concerned, or maybe more concerned, about the ditch bank maintenance, because, you're talking about State Line Drive, between the four-way and Woodsdale Drive, there's some spots on the uphill side of the road where the water is washing the ditch away
that might,
right up. I mean, the asphalt is starting to break off.
That's what happened
Because
on
the
the other
ditch
side
bank
of the
is
four-way
gone.
too.
I think,
That's what happened on the other side of the four-way, where they had to reinforce the ditch
Yeah.
with rock.
Right.
um,
And, Leatherwood has had problems with that. I mean, it's gonna happen in Holiday Island where you got fast-moving water going down these ditches, so there's gonna have to be some regular inspection and maintenance done there to preserve the road.
I had a question about maintenance, actually, and that is, how do you see the money being transferred? Would we just pay it as they do work on it, maybe budget an amount every year that we expect to have to pay out, so we know to plan for it? And then they would tell us every month or so how much they spent on that road,
The only example I have again is the Fairfield Bay model, which I keep falling back on. They pay a flat fee every year for road maintenance and a separate flat fee for weather abatement, for, dealing with the snow and ice and stuff like that. It's a flat amount. I don't remember what she said it was.
Something a mile, wasn't it? A mile.
I don't know how they came about with the figure, but they have a written agreement and it's for a flat amount, so they don't have the POA keep track of how many hours they put in, mowing and all that kind of stuff, and pay them on a hourly rate or anything like that. And she said the advantage to them, with doing it that way, other than that it's simpler, is that if anything, let's say you have a flood and it washes out a section of the road, and FEMA comes along and they're gonna help you fix it. If you have a standing agreement with a qualified, service provider, you don't have to go out for bids to do the repair work. So she said that it's helped them in the past to expedite repairs because they already had the agreement ahead of time.
But it seems like you could still have an agreement and agree to pay on a per job basis.
And that would be awfully hard to keep track of.
Yeah, I don't know how much effort.
I don't know how you estimate how much to spend and
Well,
then get the most out of that money. You're gonna be
The-
losing money or.
The simplest way that Danny and I talked about it is we have 6.5% of the roads, so we pay 6.5% of the maintenance budget.
But we'll have newly paved roads. It's a big difference than totally rotten roads that have potholes all over them. Big difference.
Maybe,
I don't think that's a fair deal.
no, you wanna be on the committee?
There you
to,
go.
work
I
out?
will be on the committee, but I'm telling you, I don't think paying the same price as rotten roads for good roads is a good deal.
My main concern is that we have adequate maintenance. Right now, we don't have adequate maintenance on the roads.
These roads are gonna require ditch maintenance for sure. I don't know that they'll require any pothole maintenance for a long time.
Yeah.
Right, but they're the first ones to get, snow or to get sand, salt, and,
That's true.
and plowed every time there's a storm.
Ours is a bit plow, I plow them.
There's trade-offs,
The,
and, I don't know who would come out ahead if we did it on a per job basis. If you do it on a per job basis, then what if something comes up that's not in the negotiated contract? I mean, you're gonna do everything on a
I
time and
agree. I think
material
there's
basis?
some unknowns there, and I don't have an answer for it today, but I'm just bringing it up.
Well, I can see
I
if
think-
they say with snow removal, you'd have to only consider the miles that have snow
Well,
removal.
there again, you're gonna have seasons, you're gonna have a year, you don't know at the beginning of the year when you make the contract with them, whether it's gonna snow or not. You can have a year totally without snow, and here you factored in a whole bunch of money to pay for snow removal.
Yeah, what about the years when we have an ice storm every other week?
There you go.
Then we're screwed.
Yeah.
it's gonna be,
I think my personal opinion is you could come up with an incredibly detailed scheme for making sure that we're paying the fairest amount of money, and at the end of the year, there won't be $100 worth of difference between that and just saying, we'll pay 6% because we have 6% of the roads.
I think
Well, I could.
And in the process, you will eat up, you know, how many umpteen hours of administrative time, keeping track of how many hours the guy spends mowing the ditches and how many hours they spend plowing the snow. And
And the operational costs too, you know, replacing blades and buying sand and all those
maintaining the
things.
trucks, what portion of truck
That,
maintenance
that
do we
certainly
pay?
makes sense to do it proportionally,
I think,
the kind of stuff you.
Well, I could see that,
Operational.
as you mentioned, Fairfield Bay has a separate contract for snow removal. I could see where that would not be too hard to keep track of, because you have a limited number of events a year. You know how much you've spent for salt and sand and snow removal equipment. And the district could accumulate that cost. And that could be prorated out over the streets that are maintained.
I think they don't, a lot of the roads don't ever get,
I'm just
Like I
bringing
say,
it up
ours
because
doesn't
you
get done.
ours doesn't
mentioned
get
the
plowed.
subject.
I mean, it's, I don't approve the contract, I sign them, but you guys approve them.
It's a
So-
sticky wicket.
You know, whatever,
I think,
to whatever degree you wanna be involved in preparing this contract, won't hurt my feelings. So,
I think even,
anyway, we can talk about that offline.
I mean, it has to be a mutual thing, and it,
Okay, the last thing that I have on the agenda is discussion on the candidate selection process. I think I've pretty much decided that, we can't interview candidates in any forum other than a public forum if there's more than one council member present at the time of the interview. And I am, because of FOIA, because the positions we're hiring for are not high-level administrative positions, and only high-level administrative positions qualify for exemption for executive session under FOIA. And I am totally not willing to drag our candidates through an interview in public. And I can't imagine any candidate being willing to sit through an interview on Zoom. So, I recommend that the council decide which representative is going to, you know, participate in the interviewing process.
we're talking about the code enforcer.
We're talking about the code enforcement officer and eventually the building inspector.
And why do
But code enforcement officer,
Why do-
first and foremost,
why do one of us have to sit in with you?
because some people on the council have expressed an interest in assisting in the selection process.
Whoever that can be, that may listen.
But
I agree with Ken, whoever wants to do it can have my blessing too.
So-
And I was looking for the duties and authorities of the mayor, and I didn't think it required anybody else to do it, that you could just hire.
okay, so now you're dumping it back on.
No,
So it would still, would it come back to council approval?
Yeah, it still has to come back for council approval. Absolutely.
I mean,
That's in the ordinance.
I think if you wanted to select somebody to sit in with the interview, that's fine.
Will you
But
tell
I'm
us who
not-
you're interviewing?
I'm not volunteering.
I can, first of all, I've only had 2 people respond so
Okay.
far. I had like 8 expressed an interest initially, and then when I contacted them to fill out an actual job application and send it to me, only 2 responded, so, but yes,
And that information has to be made available to the public.
what has to be made, the application application document,
Applications are
yeah.
information that's FOIA.
Certain employee information is not FOIA.
Yeah, you can
Redact.
redact.
But I think there'd be advantage to, if we had a concern individually about someone, that we could convey that to you.
Sure.
And,
Absolutely.
You can send us
And
the
not-
resumes without, you know,
Yeah,
Okay, I will inform you guys as to who agrees to come in for an interview. But at this point, it's a fairly short list.
and we can always forward you questions if we have particular questions we wanted you to ask.
Mhm. Okay, we'll proceed that way. And now that we have an ordinance passed and something to enforce, I can see if I can bring somebody on board, and they, their first job, since we don't have the nuisance ordinance yet, their first job will be assisting in getting everybody signed up. Because you know darn well that only about 80% of this is gonna be voluntary, the rest of it is gonna be knocking on doors.
you pretty well guarantee you're not gonna get any more applications. Okay.
Oh, no.
We are no longer accepting applications. No need. All right, anything else for new business? Otherwise, public comments? Any more public comments? Moving on, council member comments?
I want to make one, Linda, the reason that moved from August to September, April, the financial lady over there brought up the fact that people who are using ACE are paying 3 months in advance. So,
Get them through the quarter.
so that's why, unless you think that we could shorten that billing period, because we're not gonna be ready to go the 1st of July. So,
I think that's a good consideration.
so that, and then the contract reads, there'll be a transition until 1 September. We get people that period of time to transition over.
And I guess a follow-up comment on that, because we're talking about transition and stuff. The letter that I drafted that you guys saw, and Lynn made one comment on it, which I corrected. I'm not gonna send that off until the contract itself is approved, because I don't want,
Change.
because you can't have people calling Carroll County.
It refers to it.
Yeah.
So it talks about having a posted website, so.
But they indicated that, during that transition period, if you sign up, you got ACE and you sign up for them, or you're new, they would give you the rate of the contract if the contract's, once the contract's approved. So, and the contract prices are lower than the rate that we're paying right now, so everybody
Slightly.
slightly. but-
Even the Carroll County customers.
Yeah, well, we're paying the Carroll County rates. Is what George said.
The rural county rate.
Because that's what we were until we incorporated with rural Carroll County.
Also, Carroll County Solid Waste was gonna provide me with a list of all of the licensed haulers, people that have come to them and gotten a license to haul trash in Holiday Island, whether they are currently doing it or not. I'll send a letter to all of those saying that by ordinance, Carroll County is the sole franchisee or designated carrier. There was one other, the issue came up, I don't know if it came up in the meeting, but it came up as a follow-up comment from a resident that, we were talking about using the, names and addresses of all the water meter customers from the district, so that, that we would use that information to, so that we would know who all of the potential customers are for Carroll County. And the issue, the comment was made that that information by FOIA, per FOIA, is private information and that the city cannot use it. Our paralegal here.
Now, I did not jeopardize that case, but I've used that case in the past to prove that it's a public record.
But anyway, the Brinkley versus somebody or other, Arkansas Supreme Court case ruled that, in so many words, it is, that information is exempt from public view, but not municipalities. And that it is legal for municipalities to use that data in order to extend services. And there was a fairly recent Attorney General's opinion, basically reinforcing that same position. I did run it by our attorney, and Justin responded that that is true, that there is no legal issue with us, with the district providing that information to the city, and the city providing that information to Carroll County Solid Waste. However, he did suggest that we put a confidentiality clause in the contract, which I made a note to get with you on, that says that they are not allowed to use that information for anything other than billing and or providing trash service. So I think we're in good legal standing on that.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment? You asked about that article in the Democrat Gazette today. I messaged Rodney. He said, well, what I texted him was said, anything we should know about the broadband report that was released yesterday, reported in the Dem Gazette today, any implications to us? Said we've not been notified of anything one way or the other. Harlan is on top of it for us though. Which.
Okay.
Question back there.
Just may I just make one question to Kim on the contract for the solid waste?
For the record, your
Oh,
name?
Mark Kuhn, 62 Holiday Island Drive. Just a quick question for current Carroll County customers. Will they have the opportunity when we switch to this contract to get a lower level?
They will get the contract rate.
Which
Yeah,
is,
I mean, like my niece has that 65-gallon drum that you're talking about, which she hardly ever has enough in there. If she could go down to the.
she could go down, she can select anything she wants off the contract.
The letter, you know, the public hasn't seen the letter, but I've drafted a letter that's gonna go out to everybody on that list of water meter customers. And in there, I give you option. I have different scenarios. Scenario number one is if you are a current Carroll County Solid Waste customer, you don't have to do anything. However, if you want to change your service, your level of service, you can call them and find out what options are available.
But the contract rate will be $1 or $2 lower somewhere than what you would currently pay.
But if she lowers her level of service from a
Maybe a lot
card
different, yeah.
to a bag service, it's a whole lot cheaper.
Barb, just if they do drop to the 2-bag service, you'll have to have your own container to put it
Right, I
in.
understand.
It can't just be on the curb.
Right.
Okay.
And that's strictly to keep the animal being in the bag.
Absolutely.
The other,
What I always do is, since we never have more than one little bag of garbage, I just put it in the recycle tub.
I think that's gonna be illegal.
Yeah, Yeah,
I've
I'm
heard.
gonna be the first one to
First
violate the
person
ordinance.
fined is gonna be the
I
mayor.
think you need to report into the code enforcement officer.
Yeah.
There's.
I have a comment.
It's worked all these years.
I didn't think I did, but I did remember one. When I was looking through that nuisance abatement, draft, I did not see anything about burning. And I thought we were gonna include sections about burning in the nuisance thing. I don't know, if we don't put it there, where would we put it?
It's in the zoning thing.
No, we took it out of zoning.
Took it out of there, it was in there.
I'll have to go back and reread it.
But we didn't,
I think-
I think that was, the comment was made when we were going through it, that, well, no, we don't wanna deal with that in zoning, so we're gonna put it over here.
I thought the way I left it on my last draft anyway, was that, we would allow leaf burning, you know, if you contacted the fire department.
Well, I don't, you know, the particulars of it is up for discussion, because we don't have a draft of anything, of it anywhere. I just wondered if it would be in the nuisance or someplace else.
I'll have to double check it. I'm pretty sure we covered it in the nuisance abatement.
It's not in that draft that you forwarded us, so I wonder if it's
Okay,
something else.
I'll have to double check.
Unless I missed it, I could have missed it.
Okay, any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, I had a phone call today, someone bought property in Holiday Island. They plan to build, and they don't know what the address of the lot is. And they asked, when can we get that assigned to 911, so if I'm working a lot and have an emergency, they can find me. But we don't have anything in our regulations anywhere about 911 and establishing addresses, so we need to work on that.
They're already established, not by our ordinance, but by some.
You know, they're in our table, our map table,
They're in our
Yeah.
table.
but we have to get that coordinated with 911 services, so that they're in their records.
Okay, well, it would be a formality for us to have it in our record, because 911 is already totally tied into it.
Okay. Tied into,
Tied in what?
The
Address.
addresses for every lot in Holiday Island. 911 already has the street address for every lot in Holiday Island.
oh,
The
cool,
ones
all
that
right.
the planning commission established that are
The
unoccupied?
one, yeah, the one that's on that list that I put out there. 911, that's why that list was generated, was for 911.
Okay, all right.
So whether you know, if I build a house on block 10, block 2, you know, and that becomes, you know, 127 Holiday Island Drive, 911 already knows where that is
Okay,
in the world.
all right, I'll use that for reference.
Lot numbers, not.
They still have a few.
911 knows the address. Now, if this lady only needs her lot number, only knows her lot number, she needs to find out her street address.
The lot
But that's
number and
what-
the address are different.
Right. But
Yeah,
that's what
but this person
911
knew
has.
their unit, lot, and block, they just didn't know what the street address would be.
Yeah, well, they need to find out their street address. 911 has their street address.
Okay,
But she can call me at City Hall and I can
Sure.
tell her what her street
I would
address
think
is.
well,
so.
this person said that was the 8th one that they called, and so,
There's no reason why
I don't
we
know
can't.
how many she
put
called
that-
before me.
okay.
And that's not the first call like that I've had. I've had several, because I think the 8040 number comes to me too, maybe rings on my phone. And so I said, well, I didn't know, but try the district, or try Dan, or try
We've had
Lynn.
several calls about, you know, what's my street address gonna be.
Yeah.
So
So
the right
she-
answer to give people who call is call 911 for your street address?
Call the
No.
city,
Okay,
call me.
all right.
But I don't see any reason why we can't put that list on the website.
We have it as part of our zoning regulations that haven't yet been approved.
But
Yeah, but
I don't
in
think every lot
anticipation
has
of
a
that.
number. I think,
I think there were some lots
I
that
think
we
there were
didn't have
just a
addresses
few
for.
that didn't have
Yeah.
those, no.
So maybe we can contact 911 and get that information. Dan says they have it.
911 would not have that information. They'll have lots with numbers.
If,
Contact the chief.
it's possible that Tom Dees would have subdivided a parcel after all those numbers were assigned.
And combined.
And there aren't,
After that,
and there have been some parcels, like where Terry Presley built those houses, where they had to come up with
I think those are the ones I'm
Street.
thinking of.
street numbers, you know, that didn't exist before.
Okay.
But generally speaking, they're all established.
So we could create numbers for the missing ones and communicate those to 911.
In fact, if we know of some, we should probably do that.
I suppose we could pass an ordinance to make it official.
Well, in the zoning regs that we haven't addressed, there's a process defined by the place, the city that we copied from. We just haven't done it.
Councilmen and women, the
Council
911
members.
system in Carroll County is run through the sheriff's dispatch office. And if you had something you want to put up, like numbers and such, you might contact your local JP and have him work with the dispatch office.
So when I get these calls, who am I to refer them to? You?
So, yeah,
I did have an interesting call, or not a call, it was a voice message because I didn't get the call, but, it was from a real estate person, and it was a question that somebody in Holiday Island here has 2 lots. The numbers are 57 and 59. And they want the street address to be 67. And it's very important to them that the street address be 67. And she didn't even put what the street was, it was just numbers, so. I called and left a message, but I haven't heard back from them.
would you make?
But I
a
think that's gonna
recording
be
of this?
difficult.
Those are the kind of things that mess up a 911 call. At the ambulance board today, we just had a discussion about a call, took a fire department 30 minutes to get there because the people giving the address were not, that was their address in their mind,
Yeah.
but it's not where they live.
All right, any other comments? Moving on to scheduling regular meeting,
19th.
May 17th.
May 17th.
May 17th? All right, that is 30 days, okay. You don't know.
We very well may have a special meeting before that if I get some of these things back from the attorney.
We get more than 24 hours to work on it.
Contracts. Well, the nuisance ordinance he's had for a couple of weeks. No workshop scheduled or planned at this time. Any announcements? Move to adjourn?
So moved.
Jerry made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Lynn seconded it. Any discussion? We're adjourned. Oh, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Turn off your mic. We'll get home.